welcome to Liz Rocks and Stuff. I'm Liz. It's time for episode 99 of What's in My Tumbler, and can't believe next week is going to be my official 100th episode, so that's kind of cool. Still don't have a plan for next week, but whatever. We're going to start out with Foamy Rainbow, so that's because if you remember from last week, I had not enough of Rainbow or Foamy Rainbow to do a full barrel for another round of stage one. So, and I didn't have enough ready for stage two either. So I just combined them and put them both into Foamy Rainbow. So this is me doing an inspection, and I will not talk over this because it takes forever. But I am sorting out what's ready for stage two, what needs more time in stage one. And at the end of this, I'm actually going to then create two barrels, so one for foamy, one for rainbow, and we're going to do our first round of testing with the ivory soap with the gem foam. All right, so all that sorting is done. So I put the scraps into that barrel, which I realized as I was doing it, I was like, that was dumb. I should not have done that, but I did it anyway. So now I'm going to take all of those. Those are rocks that need more time in stage two, and we're going to put them into a cup off to the side. And now we're going to bring over, these are the rocks that are ready for stage two that were originally part of Rainbow. That's in the bottom barrel. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit in stage in the foamy barrel, a little bit in the rainbow barrel, and that's kind of off of what it was ready from this round. And so the rest of that was originally foamy. If I'm not making sense, just ignore me. And then so now I have the two barrels that have enough, are full enough to do stage two. So we're going to add my gem foam into that foamy barrel and add some water and some ivory soap. And kind of what I'm looking for at this stage is what I notice when I use ivory soap. After I do the soap cycle, the water kind of beads up on the rocks in a way that you would expect if there's some sort of a residue on them, which is why people don't like to use ivory soap, because it leaves that waxy residue. So what I was curious to see at each of those stages is, do I see that if I use the gem foam versus when I don't? And so after we do, that's what I'm looking for at this point. And then once they're done and shiny, is there a difference between the two? Now, as I've said before, and I will say every time, the results of this does not mean that that's going to be the results for somebody else who tries this experiment. So if you think this might help you, go for it. Just because it does or does not work for me doesn't mean it will or will not work for somebody else. That is my official disclaimer. So now we're going to rinse that off, and I didn't see any beating up on these rocks. So that's kind of a good sign, because that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want these beating up and getting that residue on it. So initially that is a good sign. This is going to take forever because I have to pick the rocks out around the foam, because I don't want to put the foam through the grinding cycles. I only want them in the soap cleaning cycles. Otherwise, this foam is not meant to be ground down like that, and it absolutely will bring grit across the stages. So every time I do this, I'm going to have to pick out around the foam. All right, so I picked out around all the rocks. There's no foam in this barrel, I hope. And so now we're just going to fill that up and do 3 tablespoons of stage 2 and a tablespoon of borax. And I realized after the fact that I completely forgot to update the lids to say that these were in stage 2. I did go back and fix that off camera. So you will see I did not change the stage number on this one or Rainbow Quartz. So I did change it later. All right, now we're going to do this is just the rinse on Rainbow Quartz because you saw me load this barrel up. So again, we're looking to see, does the water beat up on these rocks? And actually it didn't. And I think that's just because these are in stage 1. I typically notice that more in the later stage 3, 4 that I start seeing that. So at this point, it's fine. They're equal. The 2 barrels are performing about the same at this point. But I suspect that might change with the later stages. So we're just going to get these loaded up with, again, a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of stage 2 grit, and they're off to grind for another week. And now we're looking at Multitudinal. This is the mix of all kinds of different rocks and agates and just whatever random things I had sitting around. These are still in stage 1, though there are a significant number ready for stage 2. I don't start a stage 2 this week. They're not quite there yet, but I do pull out a lot more. So this should probably be ready next week, but we'll see. I'm not going to have a new barrel for a while, but I'm planning out what my next ones are going to be. Mainly, I'm very excited that WeFossick sent me a notification that the next subscription box has been shipped. So I should get that this week. Look for a quick short of me opening that. I'm very excited. I have loved the first 2. I'm sure I will love the 3rd one. And I am in need of some rocks. So it has very good timing. I am very excited about them. These rocks are not getting as beat up as I thought they were. You remember last week I said there was a shiny green one that I thought was just going to get pummeled. It's still intact. So it wasn't mica like I thought. It might be like Amazonite or aventurine or something like that. These rocks are just kind of chilling. That's a cool one. I like that one a lot. That stripe looks really cool. That's the one that I thought was just not going to survive. That I think is some fluorite. I have not identified most of these. They're probably mostly quartz and probably jaspers and unakite and mookite, stuff like that. Which, mookite's a type of jasper anyway. There's like 3 types of rocks, so they're all just varieties. Anyway. So we're going to put some water in the stage 2 readies. We are going to completely forget to recenter the barrel in the camera. I dumped in the rest of my random rocks. That's what's left over from Rainbow Quartz and Foamy Quartz or Foamy Rainbow. It wasn't everything that was left over, but it was just what was there. So just figured I'd throw that in there to fill that up. And then we're going to get a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of stage 1 grit. Finally remember that should be centered as we are finishing up. And then put the lid on, and these are ready to go for another week. And then we have the glass. This was interesting for me. So I obsessively checked these like every day. And the first few days they did have some pressure buildup that I burped. Probably didn't absolutely need to be done, but I did check it. The bottom was more flat instead of concave. So I just decided that it was best to be safe. So because I was that vigilant checking them multiple times a day, I didn't have any issues with this blowing off. Now that doesn't mean that couldn't happen. So you always want to be careful with glass. And I do actually have a piece that I dried off at the end to show you those air pockets that as they're being ground out. And I was surprised, just because I've tumbled obsidian, and obsidian for me tumbles pretty quickly. that this had several pieces with just large crevices and things that still needed to be ground out. So at stage 1 with obsidian, I started in stage 2. So I was kind of surprised. This is clearly harder than obsidian, which I know it's just a different kind of glass. But this is kind of interesting, having never tumbled glass before, how this is turning out. I do have some glass pieces that I had intended, so if I need to fill more of these barrels at some point, I do have them. This has a little rainbow circle in it, like right in the middle. It's hard to see, but I thought that was kind of cool. I'm not sure what kind of glass that is that has that iridescence in it, but it'll be interesting to see how that ends up. And I do have some more glass. This still isn't even all of the glass that I have that I bought, not counting what I had and have had for years, intending to be brave enough to tumble some glass. And I'm finally brave enough. So putting water in that top, I'm going to put water in the bottom, and then realize, hey, I'm actually going to pull out a piece from each stage to kind of show how the glass looks at each of the various stages. So this is a piece of very light, like a lavender piece, but you can see those holes. Those are the air pockets that, and once you grind down to the air pocket, it releases the gas that creates the pressure in your barrel that you then want to release. So again, I forget that I should center the barrel in the screen. So that was a tablespoon of borax, roughly what was left in the container of stage 1 grit, probably about 2 tablespoons. And then this is ready to go for yet another week. So that's it for this week. Next week, we'll see stage 2 of the rainbow experiment. And I am glad to have you guys here still. Like and subscribe. And next week is the 100th episode.